Salutations, my entertainment-seeking denizens. Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/EntitledPeople. Alright, this story's called Another Karen Walks Into a Veterinary Clinic. I don't want to spam this sub too much, but I have many a Karen or Chad story from my time so far as a veterinary nurse. Content warning. There is some graphic, but toned down, description of injuries to multiple animals. This is also another long one, and there's really no way to teal deer at the end. This particular event happened maybe a week after I finished my bachelor's degree some years ago, but it has lingered with me. Obviously, with so much time elapsing, all conversations will be paraphrased, but I'll be accurate as I can be. Buckle up. A woman calls the clinic, sounding very calm, and the receptionist taking the call hands me the phone so I can triage and establish urgency and get things ready.
I have a pair of breeding guinea pigs that got into a bit of a scuffle, and there's some scratches that need a bit of attention. Can I bring them in?
Absolutely. Can you describe the injuries so I can either schedule a time later this afternoon or get you squeezed in as an emergency? Can you see them now?
Yes.
Okay, are they both breathing?
Yes.
Can you please describe the injuries? Scratches can look minor but be worse than they appear, and even minor scratches require precautionary antibiotics.
Well, the male has some scratches to the face and front legs area. The female has some scratches to the abdomen which are bleeding a bit, probably just require a clean and stitches.
Okay, well, it sounds pretty important that we see them relatively soon. Can you be here within the hour?
Yeah, I'm only a few minutes away.
Great. When you get to the clinic, give the receptionist your name and mention that OP triaged your pets over the phone. They'll come get me so that I can evaluate the situation and get one of the vets to give the instructions for me to go through wound care, and they'll get the antibiotics ready. This seemed pretty run-of-the-mill. No alarm bells ringing. Boy, was I in for a rude shock when Karen makes her entrance. To her credit, she did arrive within 20 minutes, but her description of what the wounds were on the female were so very downplayed. She gave me the male first, and his scratches were pretty superficial, though one would require stitches as it exposed muscle on his shoulder. I called Boss Dude in to start working on the male quickly so that I could triage the female. Admittedly, I made a mistake not checking the female first. The male was making it difficult to get to the female, and I wanted to get him out of the way to then get to the female. She was under a lot of blood-stained paper and cloth. This is when alarm bells started. I moved the paper and cloth, and the wounds described as superficial were actually fatal. Her torso was absolutely shredded, and internal organs were spilling out. There were lacerations to internals as well, and making it worse, the wood chips she used in their cage were all through the innards that were now exposed. My blood begins to boil, but I need to keep my cool. I take a breath. Boss Dude looks at me and knows something is very wrong. You said that her wounds were minor and would just need a clean and maybe some stitches. Boss Dude peers into the carrier and starts turning red, then returns to patching up the male, knowing what I'll be saying next.
Well, I didn't want to be judged over the phone. Judgmental people are the worst.
These wounds are in no way minor. There is literally nothing we can do to save her.
Sure you can. Just give things a clean, stitch her up, give antibiotics, and send her home. She'll be fine.
No, that's not how it's gonna work. She's got irreparable damage and has lost an enormous amount of blood. We don't have guinea pig blood transfusions on hand, even if we were able to fix her extremely bloody serious injuries. I'm sorry, but this will need to be a euthanasia case.
No, she needs to be patched up so I can get her breeding again.
Absolutely not. Even if we could just patch her up, She would never be able to breed again because her uterus is so damaged that a pregnancy would kill her from a rupture.
You don't get it. I need her patched up so that she can breed. I need to make money somehow.
A few dollars is more important than the welfare of your animals? That's horrendous. There is absolutely nothing we can do except euthanize her because right now, she is suffering.
No, you're not euthanizing her. I refuse.
Miss Karen, if you do not give us the permission to euthanize her, I will be forced to go over your head and get permission from animal welfare authorities.
I highly doubt that's even a thing. Don't threaten me again. I'll call the police and take you to court for animal mistreatment.
I'm sorry, what? You want to have us charged with animal mistreatment for euthanizing an animal that cannot be saved? Boss Dude puts the mail in a cardboard carrier and calls RSPCA.
I'm calling the police. You're awful people.
Sure enough, she calls the emergency number rather than the local police station and makes a whole lot of wildly false accusations. It only takes a few minutes for Boss Dude to get the authority. He's measuring up the barbiturates when police arrived. We have to stop what we're doing and show them the notes from her original call when I told her to come in. Look at the state of the female. One of the officers threw up, and the other wasn't looking so well either. The officer not puking calls RSPCA to confirm the authority given and match up a code Boss Dude put in the file notes before measuring up the barbiturates. It all checks out. They remove her from the consult room, we administer the barbiturates, clean up the female so that she's easy for the star of the story to bury, and give Karen the male, and the body of the female in separate cardboard carriers. Police stick around to make sure she pays, all the while she's hurling abuse at us. You would think this would be the end of the story. You'd be wrong. Less than 48 hours, she shows up without calling with a very poorly large pet snake. I'm standing there absolutely stunned and thinking, oh, there is no way you've done what I think you've done. I thought wrong. This absolute monstrosity of a human thought it would be a brilliant idea to feed the barbiturate-filled deceased female guinea pig to her snake because, in her words,
it was waiting for a rabbit to thaw and the smell of the blood would appeal to the snake. He can be a picky eater.
This snake was digesting a guinea pig full of barbiturates. She fed what is essentially a death potion to her damn snake. We check the vitals and do some imaging to see if there's any chance we can save this snake. And one of the other nursing staff contacts RSPCA, knowing that all hell is about to break loose. Once again, there is nothing we can do. Once again, we have to euthanize one of her animals because of her stupidity. Once again, she refuses to give the permission to euthanize. Once again, she calls the police on the emergency number. Once again, we receive the authority from the RSPCA to euthanize. Once again, we need to delay when police arrive. It's the same police attending. They check the notes and authority, give us the go-ahead, drag her into the reception area as she once again hurls abuse and refuses to pay. One of the officers contacts RSPCA to see if there's enough to arrest her for animal abuse, and there is. There's a long pattern of her showing up to clinics with animals in horrendous states, almost always requiring euthanasia. She left the clinic in cuffs. A few months later, we were summoned to give testimony in court. The only good thing about this fiasco is that she had the proverbial book thrown at her, as this was not even her first time in court for animal neglect and abuse. She received a few months' custodial sentence, fined a significant amount which would be donated to an animal rescue organization, and had a legal ban on owning animals, which meant all her animals were seized, and the healthy few were rehomed. Majority were not able to be saved. And to this day, RSPCA does random checks to make sure she has no animals. If you stuck with me for this roller coaster, thank you. I have many stories like this, so let me know if you want me to post some of the standouts. Yes, please post them because, wow, thank goodness for courts being able to do that because that woman, jeez. This story is called MAGA Tourists. This is another story from dealing with tourists who come off the cruise liners that dock in the small town near to where I live and my depot is based. Normally, there are specific coaches laid on for the boat passengers, but some travel on the service buses that I drive. This story takes place on a Sunday. A large boat had come in, 3,500 berth, and with it being a Sunday, it was a Sunday bus service. This meant there was a total of 8 buses for the day, and for some reason, there were no coaches laid on for the boat. This meant that the boat passengers either stayed on board, wandered around a small highland town where the only things open were a petrol station and a supermarket, or got the service bus to the nearby city. So I'm taking a standard Volvo single-decker bus, maximum seating 45, standing 25, and am met by a swarm of passengers who want my bus, seeing as it's the express service. Needless to say, I'm hammered and the bus is full. The last 4 passengers I get were your stereotypical American tourists. I mean, load, brash, and wear MAGA t-shirts and hats. Entitled Dad will be the dad.
Entitled Mom
Will be the mom.
Entitled Kids
Will be the kids and me will be me.
Want family ticket?
No please, no telling a destination. 21 pounds please. Being polite, because it was my last shift before I was on holiday for a week. He pulls out a bank card. Sorry, I don't take cards. It's cash only on this service, which was true. Other than London and a couple of other places, you couldn't pay by contactless or card at the time.
What? That's outrageous. Why not?
Because our ticket machines aren't card readers. They can't be used to pay your fare.
Well, I don't see why you can't just let us on.
Because you haven't paid your fare and everyone else on board has, so why shouldn't you?
Oh, swear. Fine.
He slams down a 50-pound note. Sorry, but I'm not allowed to accept any note larger than a 20-pound.
Are you for real? Are you freaking stupid?
Don't swear at me or you won't be getting on. Now, either pay the fare or get off the bus because I'm running 15 minutes late now. At this point, entitled mother appears and pays the fare while giving me an evil glare. So I set off. The trip into the city was uneventful, apart from a nice American who was beside my cab, taking scenic photos and asking me some questions. We get to the bus station, and as I pull into the bay, the local inspector gets on before anyone gets off and loudly states that any passengers off the boat need to make sure that they get the bus that leaves the bus station at 3 p.m. to get back for the boat. Passengers had to be back no later than 4:30 for the boat leaving with the tide at 5 p.m. And that they wouldn't have time to get the bus to the nearby lock with its resident monster because you will not get back in time. So I unload, then go off for my next couple of trips before finding myself back at the bus station at 3:15. And lo and behold, there's the MAGA family. I pull into the bus stance and they rush up to me saying that they thought they'd missed the bus and moaning that I was late. You did miss the bus. I'm due away from here at 4:15. I'm on my break just now. Before getting off the bus and closing the doors, I take my break. 4 p.m. comes around and I make my way back to the bus to start loading up for my last run back to the depot. Now the fun bit. When the MAGA family got on my bus the first time I was the express, going back I was the same number, but not the express. So, the trip went through 9 towns and villages rather than the 3 the express visited.
About time. We have a boat to catch.
He piles on with his family.
You had better get us there on time.
Doubt it. This isn't the express. Before she could reply, my other passenger started to board, and I ignored her. So we go off, bang on time, and I decided to watch the MAGA family in the mirror as I went from the express route onto the regular route. The look of shock when I went a different way was impressive. Entitled mother coops up to the front of the bus and half yells, half asks,
"Where are you going? This isn't the way we came in."
I did tell you this wasn't the express route. That's why the inspector told you to get the 3 p.m. bus back.
Well, when do you get to
Place where the boat is. About 5:15 if I'm on time. Off she goes in a huff to her seat. The rest of the trip was uneventful other than spending 10 minutes trying to explain to the local drunk that he wanted the other bus to get home. He's harmless really, so I didn't get to the boat until 5:25. MAGA family runs off only to see there's no boat.
Where's the boat gone?
See the oil rig in the firth? Looks slightly to the right. The boat was clearly in view halfway along the firth.
How could you let us miss the boat?
Nothing to do with me. You were told what time you had to be back for. You could have gotten a taxi, but you waited till I was leaving.
Well, what are you gonna do about it?
Nothing. Not my problem. My job is to carry passengers from point A to point B safely, which I have done. Why didn't you phone the boat when you knew you were gonna be late?
I don't like your attitude. Now fix your mistake.
Not my mistake. Your mistake. There's a taxi office at the bottom of the street. Where's your next port?
Southampton?
To make it clearer for non-Brits, Southampton is on the south coast of the UK. I'm a good 700 miles north. Well, you better get going because that won't be cheap to get you there.
Why won't you help? It's your job. A customer is always right.
Well, if you won't help, then I'm gonna call the police.
Then he sits on the floor beside the doors so I couldn't shut them. On you go. Don't see what that'll do. Before apologizing to the only other passenger on board. Luckily, the police station is in the previous town and the police were there in 10 minutes. They listened to whatever entitled dad was saying after they moved him off the bus before telling him the same thing. It was his fault he missed the bus, his fault he missed the boat, and his problem as to how he was getting his family to the next port. Cue a screech from entitled mom and entitled kid, followed by entitled kid, who was about 15, running onto the bus to try and punch me before being grabbed by the other policeman. At this point, I was nearly 30 minutes late and wanting the bottles of cider in my fridge, so I asked if I could leave and headed off. Found out later from my neighbor, whose wife is a copper, that the family ended up getting a taxi to Southampton. Sorry it's a bit long, stay safe everyone, and hopefully the second wave won't hit. I love that stereotype so much. Like that family in Despicable Me when they're in Egypt. It makes for really funny content. But yeah, missing your boat would be absolutely terrifying because it's just, you see it, it's there, and it's going slowly, but you know they're not gonna turn around unless you're like the president or something, but they probably wouldn't have left if you were. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.